Some time ago, the House passed a resolution to try to bar Donald Trump from engaging in willy-nilly aggressive actions against Iran that could land us in a full-scale war with that country, thus doing their constitutional duty, and as of the passage of the War Powers Act half a century ago, the doubling down of their constitutional duty. So they did it, and then it was gonna go to the Senate. And in advance of this vote, Donald Trump tweeted this: "It is very important for our country's security that the United States Senate not vote for the Iran War Powers resolution. We're doing very well with Iran, and this is not the time to show weakness." So, attempting to put pressure on Republicans to not flip over and support the Democrats on this. And that, for him, unfortunately, failed, because 8 Republicans did actually vote with Democrats, and it passed in the Senate. So what does the resolution actually do? It directs the president to terminate the use of United States armed forces for hostilities against the Islamic Republic of Iran or any part of its government or military, unless explicitly authorized by a declaration of war or specific authorization for use of military force against Iran. So we do have that going for us.
Okay, so hey, the Republicans voted against Donald Trump. They are independent. Okay, so you want to know what the trick is? First, let me tell you who the Republicans are, then I'll tell you the trick. So half of them are not surprising. So you've got Rand Paul and Mike Lee, so they're against further wars, they're libertarians. I think that they do generally mean it in this case. If he really needed the votes, they'd probably give it to him, but okay, fine, I'll give it to them. Murkowski and Collins, the so-called moderates, fine, but that's part of the trick. And Lamar Alexander, because he's retiring, so you can only criticize Trump if you're retiring. Okay, but there's some other folks in the list, so what's going on here? It's meaningless. Trump's gonna veto it. They need 2/3, even though like 55-45, we won. Nah, we didn't win anything. So the House will pass this version. It'll go to Trump. He'll definitely veto it, as you saw in the tweet. He's massively against it. So what it does is, and you can tell when Mitch McConnell lets Republicans vote against the Republican Party or against Trump. And this is a well-known tactic. I don't know why the press doesn't write about it more. From time to time they do write about it. That's how I learned about it originally, right? But they never noted in these articles when they're in the middle of doing it. So McConnell has released the votes, meaning good. Now Susan and Lisa and all of you who are running for re-election, pretending to be moderates, you can now go home and tell the good people of Maine, oh no, I vote against Trump. Yeah, I'm so independent. And I'm really moderate. I voted against Trump in that meaningless resolution that we knew wouldn't pass. I mean, I limited his war powers because I am a moderate, and the press will call me a moderate because of this senseless, meaningless vote.
Yeah, I think that's a consideration. I think there are a few. I mean, one is that with the way that Donald Trump approaches this entire situation, I have no doubt that he would use specific authorization for use of military force against Iran. He'd just say the AUMF or whatever.
And
of course it doesn't allow for that, but he'll just say that it does. So they pass it and he'll veto it. I mean, even if they overrode it, like, do you really think he's gonna be like that? He's gonna feel limited by that? And there were references in the talks around this, even from Tim Kaine, who was pushing for this, that, well, if a specific action was needed, like an airstrike, in case of an imminent threat, that would be different. Except that's what they said about Soleimani, and there was absolutely nothing there. So all of that is true. The issue is, so then what do you do? I mean, supposedly there are supposed to be checks and balances. They're exercising it. Yes, in the Senate case, it's a bit of a facade, but still, I mean, this will at least require Donald Trump to veto a bipartisan effort to stop him going to war with Iran. I know that that's not the same as actually stopping him, but hypothetically that could be used in campaign ads.
So listen, I think that I'll take any progress while we fight for the full loaf. So I'm not against the vote, and we're starting to inch towards Congress actually asserting its authority towards any president, I hope, knock on wood, including a Democratic president, when it comes to issuing a declaration of war and using military force. So we've made some progress in that direction, and rhetorically, and as a matter of precedent, it's important that we can say 8 Republican senators have voted with us, right? So I don't want you to get the misimpression that it is a bad thing. Overall, sure, we'll take it, but it is a crumb off the table of the establishment. And yes, it's definitely a trick. As long as you don't give credit to the people doing the trick and call them all moderates because of this vote that has no effect, then I'm totally fine with it. And let's go to the next vote and the next vote and keep building a coalition that actually will vote in favor of congressional power rather than executive power on the issue of war.
Look, I think that this should be one part of what should be a developing strategy months in advance of what I feel is likely to happen, is that Donald Trump, as he has alluded to many times in the past, feels that a president should start a war with Iran to try to get reelected. I think that he brought us right up to the brink, probably considered going farther, and I fully believe that he will attempt to do that as we get closer to the general election. I think that all of the Democratic campaigns and the Democrats in general should expect this and should already be preparing for what they're going to do when he does that, because he will do it thinking it will improve his odds. They need to make sure that that doesn't happen. Ideally, they would make sure that it doesn't happen, that he literally can't take us to war. They apparently don't have that capacity. But they at least have to stop him from cynically using it to win re-election. Part of that we got today with they can at least run ads saying that the Senate knew that he was going to push for war. They came together, both sides, to try to stop him. He overrode that. They need to pitch him not as someone who is protecting the national security, as he said in his tweet. No, he's hot for war with Iran. That's all it is. He's a warmonger, and he literally will go against both parties to push for the war that he's been just salivating over for literally years. I don't know exactly how you put all of that together, but I do think that they need to be ready for it.
Yeah, so last two things on this. One is, another upside of this is that, look, you can tell that the Republican voters are tired of war because Republican senators would not break on anything that was core to their voters or core to their donors. So if the Democrats said, hey, now in order to appear moderate, we're gonna ask you to vote for tax increases on the rich, you'd get 0 Republican votes. They would be like, this is not the time for moderation. I don't even care if it's a show vote. I don't, no way, no, right? So this means these Republican senators get a sense that their own voters are like, maybe we should start heading towards the exits on this one. It's not going to be that unpopular to oppose Trump on the issue of more wars. So that's a great development for the country overall. If the Republican senators are feeling that pressure, and they almost never feel pressure. And then finally, this is a small point, but part of what's wrong with the Democratic Party, Tim Kaine does a good job on the resolution. I give him 98% credit on it. And then as he's giving this speech, he says, we need a Congress that will fully inhabit the Article 1 powers. So what's wrong with being smart? Because that's a perfectly good sentence, that's a smart sentence, and educated, going in the right direction. No actual American knows what you're talking about, okay? Like mentioning the Article 1 powers and then quickly explaining it, I could live with. Using words like fully inhabit the Article 1 powers, I mean.
I think people will be quoting that for centuries.
Like, for God's sake, can you guys talk like a real person for a second? So like, can you say, hey, he's not gonna be able to take congressional power away from us, not on our watch, or whatever, however you say it, right? I say it that way, you say it any way you like, without sounding so professorial. Every time Trump's like, we do good things, they do bad things, America, they're against the flag, and he wins. You're like, we will fully inhabit the Article 1 powers. People are like, okay.
If he wants to go to war, he's gonna have to come to our house, which is inside of Article 1. That's where we inhabit.
Okay, it's a small thing, but please. But unfortunately, the showmanship does matter because you're trying to win voters and you're trying to get them on your side. So please, if you could find a way to speak like them, that would be great. Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.